Good morning, my friends. Here we are, UFC 298. It is your fight morning breakdown show. We're here live. We're ready to go. We've got 12 fights. Want to personally welcome you to the show where we discuss these UFC fights from a betting perspective. We've got 12 bouts. 9 bouts are currently favored to end inside the distance, and it should be a barn burner of a card. I've picked my spots. I'm ready to discuss what we have in play today as we march towards victory, one fight at a time. At the top of the card, we have a featherweight title fight where you have the old dog in Alex Volkanovski taking on the young gun in Elliott-Topuria. Confidence is raging and rolling, coursing through the veins of Elliott-Topuria as he makes the walk, and a stalwart of the featherweight division, a champion of champions. Alex Volkanovski is set to defend his throne in what should be a fantastic matchup. But let's work our way through this card. We have a lot of folks in the chat here, and I want to thank each individual for joining the stream today. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, that would be a big help. Let's get things kicked off. First fight of the night, where we have Lee-Maverick coming in as a minus 185 betting favorite. She's taking on Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee, a veteran of the sport, seasoned veteran, who is going to fight hard for your money. She's a long fighter. She's lanky. She's gritty. She has Tony Kelly in her corner, pushing her, cracking the whip, ready to have her fight her tail off. And is that going to help her across the finish line against, let's be honest, an underachiever here in Lee-Maverick, a fighter who spent a lot of time, I believe, at Old Dominion University, a very intelligent fighter, but she's come up short on numerous occasions, and this is a gut check moment for Lee-Maverick. I see a lot of folks on the timeline are picking Andrea Lee, and they believe that she has what it takes to come out the other side victorious, and I see what you see, but I also see a younger fighter, 26 years of age, in Lee-Maverick, who is spending time at a camp, I believe at Elevation. She's been putting in the work, and I think that under the bright lights here, we've seen Andrea Lee, the scar tissue has been in play. The lack of physicality is a major problem for me here with Andrea Lee, and I think Lee-Maverick's going to walk away victorious. I don't have any action on this fight. I think that there are other spots on this card that you should look into, but this one, you see the line has been shortening significantly. You look at the big-time reach advantage here for Andrea Lee, but she's going to have to keep this fight at range to be successful. I think that Lee-Maverick is going to be the much more physical fighter here, and she's going to come in to look to push a pace. By the way, how about Lee-Maverick on the scales yesterday? She was sporting some interesting paraphernalia as far as the wardrobe goes. You don't typically see that during weigh-ins, but she was showing off the muscularity there, and let's see if that pays off here. Now, muscles don't necessarily win fights. We know that, but I'm going to be picking Lee-Maverick to win. Now, we have Oban Elliott taking on Val-Woodburn in a matchup down at 170 pounds, and you saw, if you were following closely to the Twitter timeline and the Instagram, Oban Elliott, there was some speculation whether or not this fight was up at 185 pounds. Who knows if that was for real or not, but the fighters made weight, and you have Val-Woodburn, who's sitting on one professional loss to Bo Nickel. That is nothing to be too concerned about, but the unblemished record's gone. Val-Woodburn has a number of knockout wins on his resume. Reminds me of a Joaquin Buckley without the spinning attacks, and Woodburn is going to come in, look to crash the pocket against Oban Elliott, who is a fighter, a Welsh fighter. You know the Jack Shore lineage here, someone who is a survivor out there who's going to dig deep. I believe he was a underdog, plus 135 underdog in his matchup against a fighter on the Contender Series, came out victorious there, was able to really turn it on late. And in this spot, Man, Elliott, he's got to show me something here. This is Val Woodburn's time to shine at welterweight. If he's going to come in here against a fighter who is there to be hit, that's one thing about Elliott. He's going to stand in the pocket with you and he's going to trade. But the question is, can Val Woodburn come out the other side victorious? I think that the crowd here at the Honda Center in Los Angeles or Anaheim is going to be a factor in this matchup. I will be picking the gritty favorite, Oban Elliott, but without much conviction. I think that there are other spots on this card, and we're going to work our way through this card. I was honestly, when we were doing the breakdown, when I was putting in the graphics, I was thinking to myself, it might be better to start with the Topuria Volkanovski fight and then work my way down, because if I come down at the bottom of the barrel in the beginning of the card here, we're going to work our way up. So I've got to maintain the intensity here on some fights that aren't necessarily going to there won't be many fannies in the seats for these first few prelim fights. We will say that. So let's go to another one here where we've got Danny Barlow taking on Josh Quinlan. And you saw last time out, Josh Quinlan ran into some problems against Trey Waters, a fighter who was lanky, was fighting behind his jab, using his reach well. And Danny Barlow is another fighter who's going to do that. Quinlan, you talk about coming in with some recency bias in his last matchup, came in as a -175 betting favorite against Trey Waters and took a unanimous decision loss. And you saw the ceiling to Josh Quinlan's game. And he's taking on a Danny Barlow who is going to come out here and crack. He's going to push a pace. He's going to use his length in this fight. 7-0 record. His nickname, Left Hand to God. Now, and I do believe that that's in play here, but Quinlan is now a veteran of the game at 31 years of age, only a 6-1 overall record. I'm going to be picking Danny Barlow to win this fight. You look at the fight doesn't go the distance prop sitting at -250. Quinlan's he's got to go for it here. He can't stay at range like he did against Trey Waters and get picked apart. Daniel Cormier was correct where he said you can't just stand and throw one shot and just sit there and get picked apart. You have to crash the pocket, take risks against a lanky fighter, especially against a fighter who is accustomed to fighting and using their reach well. So give me Danny Barlow in that matchup. I think that we've seen the best of Josh Quinlan. Now, this is a fight that has fireworks written all over it. This is a fight, Zhang Mingyang taking on Mingyang-Ribeiro. Now, Ribeiro, when I watched Claudio Ribeiro fight in Newark, and Mingyang-Ribeiro fights in a very similar fashion. Both have many knockouts. Both are reckless. Both will fight hard until they're finished. And Mingyang is a fighter who is also accustomed to early striking finishes. And I think that this fight likely doesn't see a second round. I think that the under 1.5 is in play here. And when push comes to shove, the killer instinct of Mingyang-Ribeiro is the side of the fight that I like a little bit more here. I think that this is a volatile matchup. And when you run back the tape, Mingyang does leave himself open to being countered. Both of these fighters are extremely aggressive, and both of these fighters should be open to being countered. But I think that whoever lands first blood, like Sylvester Stallone said, will walk away victorious. So give me Mingyang-Ribeiro in that matchup. Let's get to some of the comments here as we roll through. We've got Evan. Good morning. Great to see you. Welcome aboard. Thank you for tuning in. Brian, you've got your morning coffee ready, as do I. I've got paying homage over here to the likes of Big Pretty this morning, who you could probably see her. Look at that cup there. You could see her, or you hear her in the distance, letting me know that she's in the other room. Professor Chaos, welcome aboard. Thank you for tuning in. You are on your way to Timmy's. I have a son named Timothy also, so good choice there. Good choice. Shady's in the house. Shady, big card today. Big card today. I'm looking forward to sharing some of the knowledge that I've accrued over the past few weeks here in the lead up to this fight and this whole fight card. So the anticipation is set. Let's go. Let's go. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Wow, we've got a lot of people here. Narrative Nation, left hand to God. Let's go. All right. The dogs could potentially be rolling here. Let's go. All right. So let's get back to the fight breakdowns here. Let's talk Rinya Nakamura taking on Carlos Vera. Carlos Vera, 36 years of age, a fighter who spent some time on the Ultimate Fighter and got sent home pretty quick. And I wonder, what did Carlos Vera do to earn his stripes here in this matchup against Rinya Nakamura, who has a tendency to play with his food at times? You know, the tremendous wrestling accolades of Rinya Nakamura are something to write home about, and he's a ferocious striker when he goes for it. And he also, this is a fighter who leaves himself being open to being countered. And I think that this is a smash spot for Rinya Nakamura. There is no such thing as a lock. If you listen to MMA handicappers out there, beware of folks who speak in certainties. Beware of folks who say this will happen. That is a recipe for disaster. There is no will. There is only may. And there are no certainties in this game. That is crystal clear. So we live in a world of implied probability. And you look at the odds here. Rinya Nakamura, minus 1,200 at the betting window. That is a massive, massive line. And I do believe that he gets it done. I cannot say with certainty that he gets it done, but I believe that he will get it done and that there's a high implied probability that Rinya Nakamura will walk away victorious. And I think that he does get this done inside the distance. I know he's been spending a lot of time in the octagon, getting to know his opponents, testing out techniques. And that's one thing that you will see. The killer instinct isn't necessarily there. Nakamura does play with his food, so just be wary of that. He's sitting at, the fight doesn't go the distance line, is sitting at minus 210. So you could be potentially sweating that out. I had a losing bet in the main event of last weekend's UFC, where I played fight doesn't go the distance for the Jack Hermanson Joe Pyfer matchup, and that was I got some line value on that. That didn't end up cashing, and there are no certainties in this game. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. Experience is king in this game, and you want to make sure that you are being honest, not only with yourselves, but also with your audience. So thank you. I appreciate you. Now, let's continue this journey. Marcos Rogerio de Lima taking on Junior Tafa. We were supposed to have Justin Tafa in there, and the older Tafa brother, injured, ends up what happens? The younger brother, the 27-year-old fighter, both of these brothers, a large amount of adipose tissue that they carry around. Not the best gas tanks. Both have suspect ground games. I'll come out and say it. Both have very shoddy gas tanks and shoddy takedown defense and virtually no ground game. And Marcos Rogerio de Lima is a fighter who, if it does hit the mat, he can work some magic here as far as a submission goes. But this is a inflated, obese, light heavyweight who's 38 years of age, who is going to throw hammers, and he's going to have to close distance here. And you know, those check hooks of the Tafa brothers are legit. I have some reservations here about playing Marcos Rogerio de Lima money line. I think that there's a possibility that the younger Tafa brother, Junior, catches Rogerio de Lima, and that's a real possibility in this matchup. But if you're asking about implied probability here, I think it's about a 60%, 60% de Lima money line. I think that that is accurate. If you're toying with 70%, I think that that is that is taking it a little bit too far here. De Lima, full camp, ready to go. Give me Marcus Rogerio de Lima, but I'm not playing a money line play on that matchup. We've got a number of comments here. Yes, adipose tissue. You believe it. You best believe it, my brother. And this is the time of the year that a lot of people are working that adipose tissue off. So I want to wish you the best in your workouts as you march towards February, March, April, May, the summer months. Try and get into the best shape of your life as you continue to fulfill your destiny, my brothers. So let's keep things rolling here. Let's talk a matchup at 115 pounds where we have Amanda Lemos taking on Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern, we saw blown out of the water by Jessica Andrade on the feet. My goodness gracious, you saw Mackenzie Dern eating. Oh, she was eating strikes. She was in trouble. She was mollywopped by Jessica Andrade. And Amanda Lemos here can crack. We know that. 36 years of age. She was sent through the washer by Weili Zhang. And Amanda Lemos is a fighter who's going to come out and fight hard for your money. I was at the Amanda Lemos fight against Michelle Waterson. And you know you're going to get the best effort out of Amanda Lemos. Now, yes, did she get choked against the fence against Jessica Andrade? That came as a shock to me. I didn't expect that to happen. And in this spot, Mackenzie Dern is, we know, what world-renowned Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, but she's going to have to get this fight to the mat. And to get this fight to the mat, she's going to have to close distance. Do I trust Mackenzie Dern's 14% takedown defense? No. Do I trust that Amanda Lemos is going to overextend on her strikes and potentially lead into a Mackenzie Dern takedown, or a mistake on Amanda Lemos's part due to exhaustion that gives Mackenzie Dern an opportunity? I could see that playing out here. But more likely outcome for me, I see Amanda Lemos walking away victorious. I think the firepower on the feet is something that could stun Mackenzie Dern. Somebody who she was like a deer in headlights last time out, and she's no one really knows as far as the camp situation goes for Mackenzie Dern. We do know she's left the Perillo camp and she's kind of doing her own thing, but who has her coached up from a striking perspective? And she's going to have to shore up her game in this matchup. I have real concerns for Mackenzie Dern here. I know the line's closed. Money's been coming in big time on Mackenzie Dern. And look at this, Amanda Lemos, -130. I kind of like that number here. The age is a factor, and we know, I mean, Amanda Lemos, it's not like she's a complete fish out of water if the fight hits the mat. Man, this is a tough fight to call women's mixed martial arts, but I trust the firepower of Amanda Lemos, and I don't trust Mackenzie Dern being able to get this fight to the mat on a regular basis. So give me Amanda Lemos here, and I think that at this stage in the game, there is a little bit of value on Amanda at that odds. Man. Oh, Moyes thinks Lemos is going to pull out of the fight. Now, I've heard things about that. Evan, you're on Lemos. I possibly may be as well. That's something I've been eyeing that fight up for quite some time now. Andrade landed 12 leg kicks in round one on Dern. Dern can't take more than 6 from Andrade. Interesting. Yes, it does feel like a volatile matchup. I agree with you. And you want to talk matchups. So the last fight, the pick is Amanda Lemos to win. Now, thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've been hundreds and hundreds of videos at multiple YouTube channels, but we are here on my channel today, and I thank you for tuning in. Let's talk Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Roman-Kopylov. Now, Anthony Hernandez could cook Roman-Kopylov to the bone, baby. he could cook him to the bone. We've seen Kopylov, his hands on his knees. You do not want to have your hands on your knees late in the fight against Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez will roast you and slow cook you and put you through a meat grinder. And the challenge here, though, is Anthony Hernandez. I'd like to see him one day end up on the scales with something that resembles close to a shredded figure. He's been working on it. I know he takes his game seriously when he's inside of the octagon. Hernandez, he is someone who's took his lumps numerous times. I remember when he was brutally finished by Kevin Holland, and we've seen other fighters take him out of there. And Roman Kopylov, he's a fighter that 32 years of age. No, it's not Chase Hooper out there. He is a striker by trade, and I lost against Roman Kopylov when Punahele Soriano took him on. And what the hell happened to Punahele Soriano? Is he still on the roster? That was he's had some of the worst performances by a UFC standard that I've ever seen. The gas tank on Punahele Soriano it's sickening. I don't know how that's even possible to have such a suspect gas tank, and he fights out of Extreme Couture. Very, very suspect stuff. But Roman Kopylov here is a fighter who's improving. Yes, I have concerns about Hernandez trying to close the distance. He runs into some trouble on occasion if he's not able to get the fight to the mat. And I know, yes, he's taken on Brendan Allen and other fighters throughout his come up here, but Kopylov is a proficient striker and still only 32 years of age. I think this fight is closer than the current line indicates. I don't necessarily see it being a wash in the first round and a half. And if Hernandez is unable to get this fight to the mat, then all bets are off. And I think that if you were able to get on Hernandez at a much earlier line, you're in better shape. And I'll be picking Hernandez to win. But I think that Roman Kopylov has shown significant improvements in recent years and that he's getting better. This isn't a fighter who's on the decline here. This is someone who's improving, and they're taking the necessary steps to get better. So this is a more closely lined fight than indicates. I'm going to be picking Anthony Hernandez in that matchup. Now, you want to talk about fascinating matchups. Oh, look at this. Let's see. Shady, you got in on Hernandez, and look at that round. Look at those round props. Good on you. Let's see. Puna is a big fade, brother. Yes, you played fluffy at -170. Excellent work there, Evan. Let's hope it cashes for you. Now, let's talk Henry Cejudo, Triple C, taking on Merab-Dvalishvili in a bantamweight fight where, Merab doesn't move his head off the center line. He's going to be there to be hit by Henry Cejudo, but does Cejudo have the power to not only cut off the angles, but then land straight punches on Dvalishvili, because those will be available early and often for Henry Cejudo. Now, let's talk the next level. Takedowns, wrestling. You have someone who's the cream of the crop in Henry Cejudo, but you have someone who is resilient in Merab-Dvalishvili. I think that the pressure cooker that is Merab-Dvalishvili will end up getting to Henry Cejudo. And the key here is Dvalishvili hasn't been completely put out. I know Marlon Moraes was almost able to do that, but Henry Cejudo is going to have to finish Dvalishvili here. That's how I see it playing out. I think that Dvalishvili, the pressure is going to be just too much. Just when you think the gas tank is starting to empty on Dvalishvili, he just reaches another level. He's able to shift it into another gear and push and push and push. I've never seen a fighter push as hard as Dvalishvili does. And that's something when you're backing fighters who are going to fight hard for your money, you know that Dvalishvili is going to do that. Now, Henry Cejudo, 37 years of age. I had Greek seats in the lower bowl for his fight against Aljamain Sterling, and he had me sweating. I was very impressed with Henry Cejudo's performance against Aljamain Sterling, but it wasn't enough. And Sterling's not the greatest striker. He uses his length well nowadays, and Cejudo was able to get inside and thwart off some of the wrestling of Aljo, but Aljo was able to land his takedowns. Cejudo was able to land his takedowns. That was a 5-round fight. Very different fighters, but they do come from the same camp, Dvalishvili and Aljo. And I think that's another feather in the cap of Dvalishvili here. So there are a number of variables: camp, pressure, age, height, reach, size. Cejudo's made his hay down at 125 pounds. Now, this fight takes place at bantamweight. I know he was champ at bantamweight, but look at who he had to get through to get there. And I think that Cejudo's going to have to finish Dvalishvili in this spot. And if he doesn't, I think that Merab is going to roll here. I like the number on Merab at -175. Props to those who were able to get in on that number. And then if the next step in this game is, how does this fight end? I think that Dvalishvili has the ability to win a unanimous decision here. And Cejudo, great fighter. He's going to have to land on Dvalishvili and hurt him if he wants to win this fight. Give me Dvalishvili to win. And fascinating matchup. Got a number. You say this feels like a volatile matchup. Interesting. Let's see. We've got, look at this. Let's see. Merab inside the distance. Rumors. We have no idea if Cejudo is injured or not, but I'm picking Merab to win that fight. Now, let's talk Ian Garry taking on Jeff Hands of Steel Neal. And this is a situation where the world is against Ian Garry. They want to see him knocked out. It's pretty incredible to watch the quasi downfall of Ian Garry, but he hasn't necessarily lost inside of the octagon. He's been dropped by Kenan Song, and I believe he's learned a lot from that fight. And you saw when he gets dropped and when he starts to face adversity, it's almost like he takes it personally and then wants to get it back. I like watching fighters who, when the going gets tough, they're able to shift themselves into another gear. We do see it with Alex Volkanovski and other fighters who, if you land on them, that's it. And they become more locked in. And that's something that I'm seeing from Ian Garry. I know he's the taller fighter here. He doesn't necessarily have the longer reach. Jeff Neal, primarily a boxer, but those head kicks, man. I shared the Frank Camacho, the head kick that landed on him, and there have been others. He landed one on Shavkat Rakhmonov. And Jeff Neal took the kitchen sink and some against Shavkat Rakhmonov. And don't forget, Jeff Neal came in at 175 pounds against Shavkat Rakhmonov. He didn't even come close to making weight. That was a strategic move on behalf of Jeff Neal to come in that heavy. You can't tell me it wasn't. He wanted to stay in the fight, and he was able to hang in there until the third round. And you saw Shavkat put it on Jeff Neal, but Jeff Neal was able to land also. And the thing about, if you watch Shavkat Rakhmonov fight and other fighters where Jeff Neal's had success, Vicente Luque stood right in front of him, did not move his head at all. Shavkat Rakhmonov stood right in front of him. Ian Garry, at least he backs away he uses his head to move off the center line. And I know he's fought a few southpaws in the past. It's been brought to my attention by a number of folks, and I've gone back and watched the tape myself. The Daniel Rodriguez fight looked great against him. The Jordan Williams fight, I mean, Jordan Williams has had some fighters in big-time trouble in the past, and I'm not sure what happened to Jordan Williams, why he ended up, his career fell off big time, but talented fighter nonetheless. And Ian Garry, yes, he hasn't fought the same competition of Jeff Neal. You watch back the Wonder Boy fight and others. Jeff Neal has a difficult time when fighters are at range. He needs to close distance here, and he's not going to be spamming head kicks. That takes a tremendous amount of energy. I do think that he would be best suited throwing 3-4 of them during the fight and throwing everything he has into them to catch Ian Garry off guard and keep him honest. But I like Ian Garry in this spot. I think that the number, if you got in at -210 or so, that this is a spot that not a lot of people are looking into because they just want to see Jeff Neal knock Ian Garry out. But you have to look at the talent level here. Ian Garry, he's very spry. He's not a fighter who's going to take huge risks. Yes, he's been caught in previous matchups, but I think Ian Garry is going to walk away victorious in this spot due to a number of factors. It's not that I don't believe Jeff Neal has a ground game that is going to threaten Ian Garry. I don't think Jeff Neal has the quickness in this spot to cause Ian Garry a lot of problems, but the toughness of Jeff Neal, if this fight gets extended and if Ian Garry gets clipped again, if he is unable to regain his equilibrium and Jeff Neal pours it on, yes, there's a potential for Jeff Neal to finish. But I think that the way Ian Garry fights, he is a fighter who, when you're backing fighters with your money, you want to look at fighters who are going to take the path of victory that's the least resistance path of victory. And I think that's what Ian Garry's going to do here. I'm going to be picking Ian Garry to win. And I understand, I see folks, I think the anger is driving folks to play Jeff Neal here. I think that the cringe of Ian Garry is pushing folks to bet against him here. But I think that he's a talented fighter, still only 26 years of age, but he's very mature in there, and he's long, and he's got a wide variety of strikes to choose from to attack Jeff Neal, who doesn't have the best head movement and is more of a plotter out there. So give me Ian Garry in that matchup. Now, this is a fight that I have I've toyed around with the idea of playing Paulo-Costa. Yes, I'm picking Paulo-Costa. Yes, I've made a play on Paulo-Costa, and I like him in this matchup. After I saw the weigh-ins, you saw Paulo-Costa was sitting at plus 205, and he's taking on a Robert Whittaker who has been a stalwart of the middleweight division, somebody who, if you want to become a champion, you need to get past Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker, former champion himself, is going to fight to his strengths, well-rounded tactician out there who in a larger octagon is going to dance around, use great footwork and tremendous athlete, solid wrestling, great takedown defense. But I've seen the chinks in Robert Whittaker's armor here, and I have real concerns about his durability in this fight against Paulo-Costa, who, I mean, people were defecating on the performance against Luke Rockhold, but Paulo-Costa, those first few minutes of that fight, he was walking his opponent down, Luke Rockhold. He was walking Luke Rockhold down. He was kicking to the body. He was cornering his opponent. And if Robert Whittaker is hit to the body or gets rocked and Paulo-Costa is able to corral him in the corner of the octagon, that's a recipe for disaster for Robert Whittaker. I know he's going to fight until he cannot fight anymore. The Dricus du Plessis fight, you saw him get dropped by body shots, came up top. The Dricus looked amazing that fight, and I know the Vettori matchup. I was on Whittaker in that fight, and I was on Whittaker against Darren Till. Man, I don't trust the durability of Robert Whittaker for an entire 15 minutes. And what I saw from Paulo-Costa was very impressive on the scale. And also, he looks sharp. He looks quick. I like what I see from Paulo-Costa. And both of these fighters have multiple mutual opponents. You watch back the Paulo-Costa fight against Yoel Romero. That was a performance of performances. Young kid feeling his oats, and he gave a prime Yoel Romero all he could handle and came out the other side victorious. And it wasn't like he was on death's door in that fight either. You look at Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker's been on death's door in numerous fights, man. He's a fighter who will give you everything, but I think that he was a 170 pounder coming up to 185 and became champion. Give me Paulo-Costa in this matchup. And the number is, this is wild to me that Costa's plus 195, plus 200 at some books. I think that there's significant value on Paulo-Costa here. And I think that this is very, very closely lined fight. I'm picking Paulo-Costa to win. He could win decision or or knockout. Yes, Costa does look motivated. These matchups are awesome. I agree with you. Let's talk main event of the evening. We have a ton of people in here with me right now. I'm so grateful for this moment and this opportunity to chat with you. So Elliott-Topuria taking on Alex Volkanovski. You've got the young gun. You've got the grizzled veteran. You've got 35-year-old Alex Volkanovski, who I think feints will be in play here. You're going to see Volkanovski looking to use feints, looking to draw his opponent out, get reads, and then make his own reads off of those reads. This should be a chess match early. And Topuria, I think that he is going to sit down, go to the body, try to come up top, keep Volkanovski honest, use his quickness in this matchup. Look at the line here, plus 105 for Topuria, minus 125 for Volkanovski. Volkanovski, not too long ago, was labeled the greatest fighter pound for pound in all divisions. And then he took 2 losses, one of them where he could have controversial loss where a lot of folks thought he beat Makhachev. And then the second fight, I've mentioned this in previous breakdowns that Alex Volkanovski's coach shared that this is the twilight of Volkanovski's career. He's got 1 to 2 years left, and he's going to try to bang out as many fights as he can in those 1 to 2 years. And how often does an opportunity come to get one back against someone you lost against, granted up a weight class? He didn't have the preparation, and he did get knocked out there. So this, I have concerns. I have concerns about Volkanovski's durability here. And initially, this is a fight where I actually arbed. So I got in on Topuria at plus 164. And then I also played Volkanovski at minus 110. So I'm guaranteed profit in this matchup. That those opportunities don't come along often. And this is a volatile matchup. So that's a disclaimer here. But as far as the lead up to this fight, you watch the press conference, you watch the stare downs, you listen to the interviews. Whenever things get heated, Topuria starts grabbing the mic. His hands are shaking. His head is wobbling. He's so fired up, so irritated, so angry. And that's what makes him who he is. He's a fiery individual, and he fights with passion. He's a passionate fighter. And the Jai Herbert fight, you saw, he took that personally when he got knocked down. That should not have happened to him. So he went back, and I think that's what's going to make this fight great tonight, that both of these fighters are going to fight hard for your money. But I think that Topuria is coming in just a little too hot here. I think that he has the potential to burn himself out early. I know that he went all 5 rounds against Josh Emmett. I saw that, and I saw how busted up Josh Emmett was. I think that if Volkanovski is able to get this to a 3rd, 4th round, that's when the striking prowess from a mixed martial arts perspective. I know that Topuria is the better boxer here, and he does have crisp striking on the hand, on the feet, but mixing in the kicks is going to be a big challenge here for Topuria. I don't think we're going to see a lot of kicks from Topuria. He's going to sit back, look to go to the body of Volkanovski, and then come up top. You saw the head kick that Makhachev was able to land on Volkanovski. I don't think Topuria is landing a fight-ending head kick on Volkanovski. So closely lined fight. I think that this could honestly go either way, but I'm going to be picking Volkanovski. I think that the seasoned veteran champion, who it wasn't too long ago that folks were concerned that Volkanovski was going to lose to a striker in Korean Zombie. Remember Korean Zombie, power puncher, slick striking? Volkanovski was begging the referee to stop the fight. He was landing at will, completely dialed in on the feet. So don't sleep on Alex Volkanovski's striking. It's amazing how a fighter loses one fight and people write him off. And I know that Topuria is a young gun. He could come out here and win this fight. I agree with you. Evan, you're on Volk. Volk is going to make Topuria work hard. And that's the other key here. Evan, you bring up a great point, that the game planning, there's a plan A, there's a plan B, there's a plan C. If then, I think that Topuria is just so darn confident that he believes his game is going to be implemented and that he doesn't need to deviate from that game plan. Whereas Volkanovski's the fight IQ of Volkanovski is through the roof. I've bet on both of these fighters, have had success throughout the years on both fighters. Marcus says if Volkanovski doesn't take the Islam fight on short notice, he would be at least a minus 200 favorite versus Topuria. Yes, that's true. Getting Volk around minus 125 is a discount. I agree with you on that. Now, he has had an epic career. I agree. But this is where the rubber meets the road. This is a great fight. This is why the UFC and why mixed martial arts is the best sport in the world. We get opportunities to watch and make money off these fights. And this main event is just one case where I'll be walking away with the profit from the main event because I was able to play the lines correctly. But here, I mentioned I played Topuria at plus 164, played Volkanovski at minus 110, and I am picking Volkanovski to win this fight. I think that he has the ability to. This is not a fraud check because Topuria is legitimate. He is a future champion. He does it all. But I think that the confidence of Topuria may end up leading himself to burning himself out in front of the Honda Center. And I think that Volkanovski, that's going to fuel him, that he didn't need to poke the bear here. He poked Alex Volkanovski and he made this fight a personal fight. I'm having flashbacks of Tito Ortiz against Randy Couture. Do you remember when Randy Couture was spanking the bottom of Tito and basically showing him that the old man still had it? And I think that Topuria could be in for a rude awakening here the longer this fight goes, if he starts to gas out. And that's the thing. This isn't the Emmett fight where Emmett's going to sit and plot around at range and not work in the wrestling. Volkanovski's going to make you work hard. He's going to make you work hard. And Volkanovski is going to, if he loses this fight, it's probably by finish that Volkanovski loses this fight. I don't see Volkanovski losing a decision in this spot. So take a look at that line, and the pick's going to be Volkanovski. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Go get what's yours. We're at 42 minutes. We just busted our ass with this breakdown. And if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to the channel, that would be a big help. I've been at 750 subscribers for quite some time, but been profitable better and been doing this for many, many years. This is my seventh consecutive profitable year that we're looking to work through. So go get what's yours. Let's do this, my brothers. Let's go.